Hi, beautiful souls. My name is Beatrice, and I welcome you back to my Journey Faithful Compassion Hub. Today, I invite you to walk with me through the powerful teachings of Harold Klemp, the spiritual leader of Ekanka. I will be reacting to his talk, All Has a Meaning. As someone learning to walk the spiritual journey and learning to listen to the inner voice, I felt that this message needs to be shared with you, and believe me, you are about to receive something very special. So let's get into it and see what we can learn.
Well, the title this evening is All Has Meaning. Well, we went grocery shopping, Joan and I, and one of the checkers at the checkout counter is a very good fellow by the name of Al. We come through, and then we check with him, and sometimes somebody else. And he was telling me one week, he's doing all this while he's checking out. He's usually very careful. And so while he's talking and checking, we have a very good time, talk about one thing or another. And a couple of weeks ago, he said that his end-of-day tally was so close that he was off generally within an average of only 50 cents. This was the only discrepancy that his tally showed, and he was very proud of that. So Joan and I are going through the check stand, and Joan was going through first, and she put some stuff on the thing, and he tallied it all up, and then he came up with an amount. She paid him. He stood there and he tallied it up, and then he looked over his right shoulder at the computer monitor to see what it was, and he froze. He didn't say another thing. He just stared at the screen. And here was this funny thing. There was this 4 in parentheses with all these little zeros behind it. I'm looking at the screen, Al is looking at the screen, and Joan is looking at the screen. And she interprets it first, and she says, what it means is that the computer owes me $400,000. And Al stood there, and he just couldn't believe it. That's what his eyes had told him, but his head wouldn't accept it. He couldn't be off $400,000. And I told Al, I was tweaking him a little bit. I said, it's going to take a long time to get your average back down to 50 cents a day discrepancy. But he had no sense of humor just then. Poor man. So he stood there, and he reached into his cash box drawer. He pulled out a little form. He worked on it, dug it out, and he had to write $400,000 on there that he had to somehow back out of the computer. And this was going to be a very hard thing to explain to the boss at day's end. And then when he finished this, he turned around, and he hardly looked up, and he said, I haven't seen so many little O's since Moby Dick was a minnow. And the poor man looked totally crushed. So I got thinking about Al's mistake, and thought about it, and I says, that was like St. Paul the Apostle said, let him that thinketh he standeth take heed lest he fall. Al was so proud of his 50-cent average discrepancy from the cash box, why he was just beside himself, and I think he made himself hard to live with the other checkers. But after this, they're going to coast for a long time, and they'll never hear another word from Al. And Al probably won't want to check us next time we go, but that's okay. He's a good guy, and we won't hold it against him. We'll go to his stand anyway. Then I was thinking what St. Paul had said here, let him that thinketh he standeth take heed lest he fall. Now, St. Paul was well-versed in Hebrew and in Greek. Well, I thought then back too, and I says, well, now, isn't it so that we're having the same challenges today that St. Paul had way back then? St. Paul he found out very early that his mission would be to the Gentiles. The Jews, those were pretty well taken care of by St. Peter and some of the others and all, but Paul, he had a special talent, plus he had special credentials. He was a Roman citizen. He was a Roman citizen. That meant he could go anywhere throughout Rome, because Rome was the ruling power in the sense, I suppose, that you could say the United States and English is all over the place today. You know, the United States is putting its fingers in everybody else's pie, and the Romans were doing very much the same thing. And the Roman language was, you know, it was maybe the language of commerce, but the elite of the Romans spoke Greek. And the elite, and this means the government officials, the intellectuals and all that, they had their children educated according to Greek thought and Greek philosophy. Well, the Greek philosophers that came up at that time were, of course, the Stoics, and there were also the Epicureans. Now you're wondering, what has all this to do with you? Well, a lot of people had past lives. A lot of Eckists especially had past lives right around these early formative years of Christianity. Now, in one life, and they may have been, you may have been, oh, let's just say, first of all, a follower of Judaism, and then the times changed, and all of a sudden there were friends of yours who were going over to Christianity, and now all of a sudden there was a problem. You had a different belief. And so you wondered, you know, what shall I do here? Is my friend very important, or is my friend not very important, or is my belief more important, or is it not? Well, all this, way back then, was an old problem with St. Paul trying to blend all the ancient Greek, ancient Judaic into the new teachings of Christianity. And so today, Eckankar comes into a society that's predominantly Christian. And so, of course, we run into the same thing, because people will come to Eck and they will have all their education and doctrine, and I almost said indoctrination, which of course it is, because a religion is a view of life. And if you're a Hindu, you're going to have one view of life. If you're a Christian, it'll be quite another. And so, same in Eckankar, and we find that there are many similarities to the other religions that already exist here. We have our one God kind of thing, and responsibility for personal actions. We see that as a necessity. And so all this is working towards some end. And so the ancient Stoics, these were the tough guys, who wouldn't flinch no matter what happened. Well, the Christians picked this up. They have a Greek word for it, apatheia, which actually is better like, what's a good word for it, is resignation. You can't go around here and saying, oh, I'm above all this, because we're not above all this. If it rains, you go outside and there isn't a sidewalk, you're going to get mud on you. There's going to be mud. You can't be above all this unless you can fly through the air, like Superman or something very grandiose like that. Otherwise, you can't get above it. And in Eckankar, we don't try to get above it here in the physical sense, but we try to get above it spiritually. This is our whole aim, getting above things spiritually. To move above the human state of consciousness into a higher state of consciousness. And we do this through the spiritual exercises of Eck, and this may involve such things as dreams. It may also involve such things as soul travel, which simply means shifting the state of consciousness from this state to a higher one. Of course, some of the ways in which soul travel occurs may be very dynamic. So then how do the people find ek? Well, there are several ways. One is the good neighbor policy. Somebody will have a friend and who is not an ekist, and this non-ekist friend will look at the ekist and say, you know, I don't know, I just know this person, I don't know that much about the personal life because maybe they work together in a workplace or something, but I like the person's values. He stands for something, or she stands for something. They're solid. You can count on them, or something of this nature. Or they're able to come up with ideas when everybody else is sitting down, looking at each other and wondering, you know, what do we do now? What goes on? But whatever the reason, or other people just have this, you know, they may not be overly talented in any one way or another, but they have this goodness about them. People just like to be near them. Why is it? Because they have this aura. The Carillion photography can take pictures of this aura. Some people have a big aura with clear colors. Other people have a solid, tight aura with murky colors. And that, of course, affects the personality of the individual. And this aura is often the thing that people feel of each other before they even get within a handshaking distance or hugging distance. You either like someone or you don't. Why? Why? You don't know. But it's the sense, it's the intuition. It picks up this screen, this cloud that's around a person, which is a sort of how can you say it? Some sort of radioactive dust or something that emanates from the spiritual being that is truly inside the physical body. And that's why we say you are not the physical body, and therefore it would be better to say, I am soul and I have a physical body. Because to say, you know, I have a soul, well, it's some sort of possession again, and it puts the divine part that you are at the mercy of, or subjugates it to the human self, this human consciousness, which lies, cheats, gets tired, gets crabby, snaps at people and does all those things, becomes impatient. No. That is the wrong way to go about it, because then it puts this spiritual state, this spiritual unit that gives life to the human body, it makes it the taskmaster. It makes the human body the taskmaster of soul, and that's backward. And it shouldn't be that way, but most people don't know the difference. They always say, somebody asks them, do you believe you have a soul? Yes, I believe I have a soul. And so they're all, you know, speaking backward, but they don't really know it. And they don't know what it means, because they're subjugating the divine part of themselves into the fallible human and fallible and imperfect human nature. And to me, this is, if there is a crime, this is one of those ignorant crimes, you know, where people don't do the thing with malice. It's just something they don't know they're doing. But I think it's a very important point to bring out, because if people were more aware of what this meant, they would be very proud to say, I am soul. And furthermore, they'd also say, and I know that you are soul too. Because you see, as soon as you can see the essence of God in yourself, and then take the next step and see it in someone else, well, this certainly would be the beginning of the brotherhood of something. The brotherhood of the spiritual order, I suppose. Something much higher than the brotherhood of man, because man is in the human consciousness. Brotherhood of man is generally people who are always blundering about, having problems, just making their own lives run, out there trying to tell others how to run the world. That's the human consciousness. And so the new person comes to act. And he finds this belief system, this way to come to a higher stage in act. The good neighbor may tell him about it. And he says, okay. The non-ekist goes to the ekist and says, well, there's something special about you. What is it? And the ekist says, well, I don't know. And so they talk about a little bit, this here and that, and then very gradually the information comes out that this person indeed is an ekist, and he's and so on, follower of the light and sound of God, and so on and so forth. And then the other person will either listen and say, that sounds interesting, or it will be completely, just like the weather report of some far distant place on the other side of the earth where you don't really care that much what's going on over there. And you don't care too much about this. It's good information, but maybe I'll look into this some other time. But you still respect the ekist because you respect the values or the character or this indefinable something that goes about with this individual.
Wow. Can we just pause and take in how something so ordinary like grocery shopping turns into a profound spiritual lesson? I laughed at the $400,000 moment, but then Harold Klemp linked it to St. Paul's warning, let him that thinketh he standeth take heed lest he fall, and that's when I got goosebumps. How comfortable do we get in our own perfection, even in small things like being precise, being the most spiritual, the most right? And then life throws us a test just to remind us, stay humble, stay open, because pride in our own routine can blind us from seeing God's hand in new ways. Harold Klemp reminds us how we struggle to balance friendship, belief, new paths isn't just our problem. It's been happening since the time of St. Paul. I personally relate coming from a Christian background. It felt like betrayal to some, even though for me it was expansion. I didn't leave God, but I met God again in a deeper, more personal way. And that's why I loved when he said religion is a view of life, and Ekankha gives another view, one of personal experience with the light and sound of God. Did you feel that shift when he said we don't try to rise above life physically, but spiritually? That touched me so deeply. And we can do that through the spiritual exercises like You Song, a love song to God. It helps us get above the mental noise and connect with the divine spirit directly. When he spoke about intuition and being soul, yes, this part almost made me cry the first time. You are not physical body, you are soul, you have physical body. How many of us have spent years identifying with our mistakes, our pain, even our beauty, thinking that's all we are? But when you start living as soul, something changes. You start feeling more than you see. You meet people and you know them, not by name but by essence. It's that invisible aura he talked about, the energy that speaks before words. This is part 1, my loves. In part 2, we'll go deeper into how Ekankha welcomes seekers from all faiths and backgrounds. But for now, reflect with me. What does it mean to say I'm soul in your daily life? How can we live with more spiritual awareness even in grocery stores? Leave your thought in comment section, and if this message touched your heart, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe so more souls can find light. I love you all. May the blessings be.